Hello and welcome to the show. I am here today doing my first ever car vlog. I've been wanting to do some more kind of IRL videos and thought this would be a good idea to have a go with, seeing as I have owned my RX-8 now for just over a month. Thought I'd give you guys an update on how things are going with the car. Also got some questions from you that I shall go through and answer. The first one, actually, kind of nothing to do with the RX-8. A lot of people wanted to know what happened to my MX-5. As much as I would have loved to have kept it, it did have to be sold. The main issue, aside from kind of the cost of having a second car and the money was always helpful, go towards this one, main issue was the flat that me and my girlfriend live in has one allocated parking space. Now that's a bit difficult with the pair of us, let alone if I had a second car. So yeah, unfortunately the MX-5 did have to go. The MX-5 was a great car, but yeah, no space for that one. Oh, we got over some speed bumps. Hopefully all of my recording gear is working. I'm hoping the camera's not got a wibble and wobble. I tried recording this earlier, didn't quite work. I had my little camera mount was moving about a bit too much, so I'm hoping it's now held down by tape, because that is the amazing technological kind of stuff that I can manage to do. Yeah, hopefully that will do the trick. But yeah, the MX-5 did have to go. Another big question that quite a lot of people asked is sort of, how does this compare to the MX-5, having driven, typical, there's plenty of roadworks going on as well. I did not pick a good road for doing this. Yeah, how does it compare to the MX-5? Well, it is certainly a bigger car, and it took me a while to get used to parking it. Yeah, you can't quite swing into parking spaces in the same way that I used to be able to with the MX-5, and that took a little bit of getting used to. It's longer and wider, still though very agile. And this is the thing that is, I think, fantastic about this car is, yes, it is considerably heavier than my previous vehicle. However, it still handles really very well. It is still a huge amount of fun to go driving with it around. When you find a nice little country road and you can put your foot down, it's still a fantastically good handling car. It's faster accelerating as well than the MX-5, provided you're in the right gear, of course. The fun of the rotary is there is absolutely no power if you are in too high a gear. There's absolutely nothing in it. But when you are in the right gear, there is an awful lot of noise and an awful lot of movement, and it is all, yes, very entertaining. And to me, that's kind of like the most important thing about a car. I don't do a huge amount of mileage with my vehicles. I work from home, so I don't really need to. So when I do go out, I want to have a car that is entertaining. I want to have a car that I enjoy driving, and that is part of the reason why I picked this car. And it is a good thing that I don't do a huge amount of miles, because one of the other big differences between this and the MX-5 is kind of cost of running. This is not a cheap car to own. It doesn't cost very much to buy. I paid less than £2,000 for this one. You can get dodgy ones for well under £1,000 if you want. They don't cost very much in the way of, to buy, because the costs are made up elsewhere. Petrol, for example. Well, if this thing is doing maybe 20 miles per gallon, I'm doing quite well with it. That's kind of the level of fuel economy. It's good, it's getting me used to what I might expect when I inevitably get a muscle car. It's still, though, not particularly great fuel economy. Tax is horrendous. I mean, like, properly, shockingly awful horrendous. It's the highest tax brand. It's over £500 a year, which is a lot. There's a lot of money a year on tax. Fortunately, insurance is not actually that bad. I pay just under 70 quid a month, which for a 23-year-old is pretty good. There are those of you over a certain age that will be thinking, well, that is horrendous amounts to pay a month. There will also be those of you that are 18, 19 trying to afford insurance on a 1.2 litre hatchback who will be very, very jealous. England car insurance is quite expensive. I mean, this is only 20 quid a month more than I was paying for the MX-5, and for the amount of performance I get out of this, yeah, it's absolutely worth it. To me, things like servicing costs and so on, they are also going to be more expensive, and the real key with a rotary car, you've got to keep it topped up with oil, you've got to keep on top of all of the servicing bits and pieces, because yeah, things can go wrong very, very quickly and get very, very expensive. But provided you keep on top of it and you're willing to spend a bit of money on keeping it going, then yeah, everything is good, and you get a car that is fantastic fun to drive. Or some people have asked me, so what's my favourite thing about this vehicle? And by far the engine. The engine gives it so much character. I hate having kind of dull, boring cars. when I went to get the MX-5, I was actually planning on getting an MR2 instead. I wanted to get something a little bit different. Finding one locally was proving to be a pain, and I got frustrated and had had enough of the Clio, so I went for an MX-5 instead. The MX-5 is great fun to drive, but it is kind of a, I say a relatively common, boring would be by far the wrong word to describe it as, but I like something that's a little bit different, and this is most definitely that. The engine is huge amounts of fun. Unfortunately, I've got a Rover 75 in front of me, so I can't have any noisy fun at the moment. Hopefully we will get rid of it soon, so that we can have a little bit of noisy fun. Yeah, the engine, it gives the car so much character. As I said, they're absolutely bugger all power low down in it, but when you do get a nice clear bit of road, and I think we're about to, because the Rover has buggered off, we will give it some welly, and you will hear all of the million bees that are trying to attack me as we go down here. 9,000 RPM is a lot of RPM to be playing around with, and it is jolly good fun. There's, you know, when you're not quite used to having a car that will go like, I really hope my microphone picked that up as well as it sounds in here. It is great. Absolutely huge amounts of fun can be had with this one. The other kind of, going back to sort of the differences between this and the MX-5, this is a much more luxurious car than I am very much used to. My first car was a Mark I Clio. It had 3 switches, 2 of which didn't really work very well, and one of which was the heated rear window. That was by far the most effective thing in the entirety of that car. So yeah, this thing is a lot more luxurious. The MX-5 had electric windows, and that was about it in there. This, I've got heated seats. Yes, you have got, I think I might have got one turned on by accident. Let's get rid of that, there we go. That's sorted. I was leaning over, setting up the camera gear, I think I might have turned on the passenger one. We got a very, yeah, we've got a rather warm passenger seat inside the car. I've got heated seats in here. I have climate control, air conditioning. I've got buttons on the steering wheel that control functions of the, there are more buttons on my steering wheel here for the radio than there was in the entirety of the Clio. There's just a more, I guess it's kind of a modern car. I'm not used to having modern cars. And to be fair, this is probably the most modern car I will ever own, come to think of it. All the vehicles that I want are kind of older cars. So yeah, this may well be the most modern car that I ever own. Yeah, it's nice to have some more luxurious, more features, I guess, inside here. It's also quite weird having rear seats. That took me a good couple of weeks to get used to looking in the rearview mirror and actually seeing rear seats. I've driven the MX-5 for so long, I'd got used to not having anything back there. So yeah, having rear seats was peculiar. Surprisingly spacious, actually. I didn't think there's going to be that much, I didn't think you could really fit a normal human in the back of the car. You would be surprised. They can actually fit people for medium length journey. I'm not sure they want to be trapped in there for hours and hours on end, but they're actually relatively spacious back there. They've got a bigger boot as well, so you can fit more stuff. You're not quite going to go to IKEA with it. Certainly not, you're not going to fit a desk. Admittedly, trying to fit a desk in a Mark I Clio, that was good fun as well. That was kind of, the desk was sticking up right next to my head while I was trying to drive home. That was a fun experience with that one. Yeah, you're not quite going to fit a desk in the back of this, but you know, you'll fit certainly sensible amounts of stuff, far more than you would have got in the back of an MX-5, let's face it. So yeah, a little bit more of a practical car, a lot more luxurious. Did have a couple of quite interesting experiences with this one. The first one being trying to find the release for the fuel, sort of fuel filler cap. The button that releases it is right down by the driver's door, and it's quite well hidden. And I must have spent a good 5 minutes searching around while I was stopped at a petrol station because I couldn't figure out how on earth to do it. Of course, you know, when you buy a car, the garages keep bugger all petrol in them. So one of the first things I had to do was stop for petrol, and yeah, there was I imagine there would be much hilarity for everyone that was watching me fumble around trying to find this blasted thing. I did eventually got it open, but yeah, surprisingly well hidden, that one. Also putting the car into reverse, that took me a little while. So I'm used to having cars, you know, where you have like the little levers that you pull up on the gear stick to put the car into reverse, and sort of various things. I wasn't expecting on this you have to push the whole lot down, then move it across into reverse, and that was a little bit peculiar. Yeah, I couldn't figure out that one for, again, that was a little bit of faffing about, trying to figure out how the bloody hell we get the car into the gear that we want it to. Fortunately, there was no one around that time to see me fumble about with the vehicle. But yeah, that was a an interesting one. Shall we go for another little bit of a play? We've got a nice long straight bit of road here, and second gear coming off of a roundabout. Let's give it a bit of a welly, and all of the bees, and then there's a beep to tell you when to change up. There's a beep when you get to around the 9,000 RPM mark. There'll be a beep to tell you to stop being an idiot and that you should probably change gear. Again, I'm really hoping all of this is coming through on the microphone. So yeah, I've been thoroughly enjoying my time driving this car. Again, other things that people have been asking me, am I going to be doing any kind of modifications to the car and so on? Truth be told, unlikely. There are lots of cars that I want to own. There are lots of cars from Fiat Coupe, Mitsubishi GTO, Nissan 300ZX. There's a whole stack of cars, Celica GT4. I want to own all of these cars and experience owning these cars. I would rather have this car for a couple of years and then go and sell it and get a different one. Maybe, depending on how I'm doing financially, it may be less than a couple of years, because I just want to drive and own all of these different cars. I would rather save my money to go on towards the next car rather than spending the money modifying this one. Now, there probably will be a certain amount of money will go into, of course, servicing and keeping this vehicle going. I am very, very tempted to get my car wrapped, to make it orange and put the black stripes on it. That is something that I would quite like to do, and I am very, very tempted to do that with this vehicle. That may well happen, but that is about as much as I'm likely to do with this car. I'm much more likely to be saving my money so that I can have all of these different cars, because yeah, to me that's kind of I like many, many cars, and I hope that I will get to drive many of them, and yeah, got to get to experience owning them and kind of, I guess, comparing them to one another. I'm unlikely to have them all at the same time. It's just, I want to have, there's so many vehicles basically that I want to own that I couldn't decide on just sort of one to keep and mess around with. This, I will have the same way. And the MX-5 was a fantastic car. It was an absolutely fantastic vehicle for what it was. I just fancied to change. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but yeah. So as far as modification-wise going, it is unlikely. It is unlikely to see too much in the way of that stuff for this car. Another question I got is, would I recommend this vehicle? The short answer, yes. I would recommend the car, but that is relying on you being able to afford to keep running it. Yes, they are a very, very tempting prospect because they cost so little to buy, and that's great and everything. However, you are going to be spending that money elsewhere. They are not as good on fuel. They are not as good, tax is horrendous, and so on. So yes, if you are willing to pay the money to keep it running, I would absolutely recommend it, because it's like, well, nothing else really. There's very few in the way of rotary. Well, aside from Mazda, there's no other rotaries you're going to find out there, and it's just something a little bit different and an awful lot of fun to own. But you have to be very much aware of the cost. If you want a car that you're going to have to, that you don't really have to worry about servicing for it massively, this is not the vehicle for you. If you don't want a car that you've got to keep constantly checking the oil and filling it up with oil, etc., this isn't going to be the car for you. But if you are willing to do that, then yeah, I think these things are an absolute bargain. 230 horsepower, and this is a 10-year-old car that has done, it's just got over 52,000 miles. I paid less than $2,000 for it. And it's got a huge amount of power in what is a fantastic looking vehicle. The RX-8, I think, is a really rather good looking vehicle. It's like a little bit different as well. It's not your kind of traditional Japanese sports cars that you tend to see about. This one is, it's a little bit beefier than them, and I think it looks fantastic, especially in the Mazda blue that I got this one in. I'm kind of if I'd got it in any other colour, I wouldn't have really questioned wrapping it, but I'm now thinking it does look really bloody good, and yeah, so I would recommend it, but you have got to be aware. You've really got to be aware of how much they can cost to run. And if something does go wrong, yeah, the engine rebuilds can get a little bit expensive. Well, if you look after it well enough in the first place, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But then any car, things can go quite terribly wrong with them, let's face it. We've unfortunately got a truck in front of us now, which is less than ideal. So I suspect no more buzzy rotary fun, because yeah, there's nowhere to get past it down here. What a shame. But yeah, so far I've had a month and a bit of owning this car with no real problems. Apart from drinking all of the petrol, just all of the petrol pretty much. Aside from that, that's not really a problem, that's just how a rotary goes. Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time owning this vehicle, and yeah, long may it continue However, that is going to be it for this first car vlog. Let me know what you think, guys. If you'd like to see me do more of these, I can kind of do, or I might potentially do sort of more Q&A videos in this style. If that is something that people would be interested in, yeah, do let me know in the comment section. And if that is the case, then yeah, you may well see more of these in the future. However, that is it from me here. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.